Okay, good morning and welcome to Mishna Yomi, Maseches Kilayim, Perek Gimel, Mishna Vav and Zion. Today we're going to talk about planting a field, but planting different rows in your field. Previously we talked about planting different rows, but not in your field. This is a distinction Tosas Yom Tov makes, and will be discussion of Ian with Ben Sion, where we analyze in depth one of the Mishnayos, separate segment. That'll be recorded separately, so make sure to tune into that. Let's start with the Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Vav, Haisa Sadeu Zrua B'Tzolim. You had your field, it was planted in an onion field. And Mavakesh Lita B'Socha Shuros Shel Dluim. You don't have so much space, you want to put some rows of, we'll call them Dluim. The Mefarshim say Dluas Yavanis, we're talking about a Greek gourd. If you want to know why it's called a Greek gourd, it's because it's a famous Greek dish to use a specific type of gourd, the winter squash, as opposed to the summer squash. Summer squash is harvested in the summer, winter. In the winter, that has a harder shell, and you only eat the center. That's the winter squash, and it's common in a Greek pie, phyllo Greek pie, where you make phyllo crusts, and you put, it's called a pumpkin pie or butternut squash, are both examples of winter squash. That's duos yavanis. It's a Greek dish, a phyllo pie with butternut squash or pumpkin inside pumpkin, I think. Rabbi Shmuel Omer, Oker shtei shuros v'noteya shura achas. Rabbi Shmuel says, you take out 2 rows of onions, and in that place, which is 8 amos, a shura is normally 4 amos, you plant 1 row of dluim of squash, and then next to it you leave 2 rows of onions, and you can do that through your whole field. You could take out 2 rows of onions, which would be 8 amos, and then the next 2 rows you take out, and you put 1 row of squash there. So this way and you put that in the middle. So therefore you have 4 amos in the middle planted with squash, and 2 amos of empty land, and then another. So after the 2 amos empty, then you have another 8 of onions, and then another 2 amos empty. You have 12 amos between the 2 rows of squash. Bikiva Omer Oker shtei shuros v'noteya shtei shuros v'niach kama b'solam makom shtei shuros v'oker shtei shuros v'noteya shtei shuros. He says it doesn't make a difference. Only after the 8 amos between the squash, you can just take out 2 rows of onions and plant 2 rows of squash. And like we saw in the Mishnah earlier, I think at the end of Perek Beis, that actually which Mishnah was it? It was Mishnah here in Kilayim in Perek Gimel. Mishnah Dalet, a couple of Mishnahs ago, we said, like the Rebbe Kiva says, you can do 2 and 2, and that's good enough. Only 8 amos between them is okay. They sort of have a middle shita between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. They hold you need 12 amos between the B'tzolim, but you don't have to have empty space. So therefore what you can do is you could have 2 rows of gourd, of squash, 3 rows of b'tzolim, of onions, which is 12 amos, and then right next to it plant another 2 rows of squash. This way you'll have 12 amos. It's a hecker. It's recognizable that it's a onion field and not a squash field. Mishna Zayin, Dlua biyarak yarak. Dlas biyarak yarak. If you want to plant squash with another vegetable, so it's like planting 2 vegetables together over 2, even though a dlas is significant because it has very long leaves. So the Mishnah's Chiddush of the Mishnah is you still treat it as like a regular vegetable. It's full and osna based rova. If you want to plant a squash among a pumpkin, among a field of tfuah, of seed-oriented fruits, right, wheat and barley, you have to distance a base rova. Base rova we said is about around 10 amos by 10 amos space. You can't mix tfuah and yarak; those are more severe. That's the only one to plant 1 row of dluin. All you have to do is separate 6 tfachim between the 2, because it's only 1 row. If the leaves become too long, you cut off some of the leaves so it shouldn't look like it's mixed together. Yossi says, no, you need 4 amos separation for this row. You're getting more machmir than by kerem, by grapes. Amar lehen, because we're going to find out that grapes to us a kerem, that's what it says in the Torah, is more severe. Amar lehen, matzinu shizu chamura Min gefen, we find that it's more severe than the gefen. Shal gefen yachid is no slab with us. If you only have one vine, one grapevine, and you want to separate between something else, all you need is 6 tefachim. Well, the last yachid is no slab based rova. We just said before, right? If you're shura, then it's 6 tefachim or 4 amos. But if it's only one glass, then you need 10 amos between the two. He says if you have 3 dluin and 3 squash plants in an area of a saw is a very big area. It's 24 times the size of a base rova. A rova is a rova hakab, fourth of a kab, and there's 6 kabim in a saw, so it's 1/24 of a saw. He says no, you have to have a third of a saw, which would be 2 kabim. You have to have a 2 kabin separation between the glass yichidis, between the singular gourd, singular squash, and the field. Rabbi Yossi ben Chotev Efrasi Omer Mishum Rishmal Kol Shosh Dlu in the base core. He's even more machmir. He says you have to have only 3 dluim. If it's a whole base core, the most you can plant in it is 3 squash plants. Well, Yavi Zerel tell base core. You can't bring anything else. If you have 3 already there, you can't bring anything else into that base core. Core is 30 sa. That's a lot. 30 sa. Therefore, if you do the math, so therefore you have to distance from one cord, you have to distance a third of a cord, which would be 10 sa, which would be a very big difference. You know, passing like this. See you when you have the see you.